Let's dive right into it. These are 5 tips, 5 things you can do today, for free, mind you, to instantly up the quality of your woodworking. The theme here today is precision. Things that are gonna help you to kind of just dial in your measurements and your cuts across the board. Number 1, tape measure. Now, the first thing that might come to mind here is that I didn't actually give you a tip, I named an object, but the tip is this. When you are working on a project, use the same tape measure from start to finish for that entire build. Do not switch. Now, every tape measure has, at the end, a little metal piece that wiggles back and forth, just like this. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Now, that wiggling is by design. It's because this little metal piece is about a 1/16 of an inch thick. So, whether you are pushing on the tape measure like this or pulling on it like this metal tip will slide back and forth about a 1/16 of an inch to accommodate for that thickness. The problem is that over time, as these things wear in, the rivet holes in the tape can wear in as well, meaning that the amount that this little piece of metal is allowed to slide can vary. That variance can easily be nothing on a brand new tape measure, but on a tape that's been around the block like mine has, it can easily be a 32nd or honestly even a 1/16 of an inch. None of this is an inherent problem as long as you use the same tape measure for your entire project. The problem arises when people have one tape measure at the table saw, one at their bench, one at the chop saw, and they're all giving slightly different numbers. And a 1/16 of an inch might not sound like all that much, but in the world of fine woodworking, it can mean the difference between something sliding into place exactly how you dreamed it would, or pulling your hair out for hours in frustration. Number 2, clamps. Ask anybody what the main use for a clamp in a wood shop is, and they will tell you the glue up, which I do not disagree with. But there are always times when you wish you had one extra hand, maybe even 2 extra hands. Let's say you're on the drill press and you need to drill a precise hole. You've marked the location, you spent the last 5 minutes wibbling and wobbling this thing around, ensuring that it is lined up exactly perfectly. You go to flip on the machine and it does its little kick, you know the one it does, that one. And now, all of a sudden, you can't tell. Did my hand move? Any situation like that, it saves me so much time and peace of mind to just throw a clamp on the thing. Number 3, pencils. The tip here is simple. Just think about the pencil you are using when you're working in a wood shop. I'm not trying to say that there is a best pencil for every situation, but there is a best pencil for each situation. Take this guy, for instance. You know the one. Big, squarish, weird, flat. We all recognize it from our dad's tool pouch that he got in 1986. This thing is fantastic for marking lumber, for framing houses, and it has no place in a fine wood shop. Get out of here. Sorry, that was dramatic. I broke the lead. When I'm working in my wood shop, I keep 2 types of pencils on me all the time. Number 1, this thing is just your standard run-of-the-mill art pencil. I keep it pretty dull because I use it to mark up rough lumber in instances where I don't want a nice sharp lead to break. Number 2, a mechanical pencil. Now, that's your 0.5, not your 0.7. I have this for marking cuts that I want to be as fine and accurate as possible. That big, thick lead from the Home Hardware Special, it's so hard to know where the actual measurement is. Is it at the middle of the mark, the edges, the left, the right? It's almost this interpretive game every time you go to make a cut. That's why I use something fine like this, where there is no room for interpretation. Number 4, stop blocks. If I have to make a few multiples of the exact same cut, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna use a stop block. The stop block is a great thing to get in the habit of using for 2 main reasons. The first of which is that it saves a ton of time. The more of the same cut I have to make, the more likely I am to use a stop block, because rather than measuring out each piece over and over and over again, all I have to do is measure it out once, clamp a block to whatever surface I'm working on, and then slide every one of my duplicate pieces up against that block and make the cut. The second reason that stop blocks are so amazing is not only does it save you a ton of time, it also ensures they will all be exactly the same length. Even if you've employed all 3 tips before this, there's still always the risk of being a little bit off. So if you can easily ensure that all your pieces are gonna be exactly the same, might as well go for it. Number 5, test pieces. Let's say I'm building a box. The sides, the top, the bottom, they're all done, they're perfect. The next step is that I have to cut a groove in the sides of the box for the bottom panel to slide into. If you think for 1 second I'm gonna take those beautiful, I'm assuming black walnut, box sides over to the router table, just grip it and rip it on my first shot, you're out of your mind. What I am gonna do is use a very cheap and very disposable piece of scrap wood as a test piece to make sure that my cut is exactly what I want it to be before those tools get anywhere near my finished product. This is especially relevant on a piece of equipment like the router table, where setting depth and distance is always a little bit of an eyeball affair. But honestly, even on the chop saw, the table saw, the drill press, I'll throw a test piece on there if it's a super valuable cut. Like, I'm not above it. Now, you take the test piece concept, combine it with the stop block tip from number 4. Ooh, baby, you're never gonna mess anything up again. You're absolutely gonna mess things up all the time. Disclaimer, you will mess things up constantly. That is the joy of woodworking. I do it all the time, every day. Now, I know these are all super basic, simple tips, but it's those basic fundamental things that really elevate the quality of your woodworking across the board. These are obviously just 5. There are a million tips that I missed. So if you've got any other great simple tricks that you think can help people out, especially those who are just getting started, I encourage you to leave them down in the comments so we can all get better together.